Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tuned. Today we are going to be working on the CRV again and just keeping this build rolling. And yeah, today me and Christian have actually been to the car wash and we actually cleaned off some parts that I had. You guys know that I had that junkyard Skunk 2 intake manifold. So we took that to the junkyard, degreased it, sprayed all the gunk out of it because it was full of crap on the inside. And I'm actually in the process of painting the intake manifold. I'm actually painting it wrinkle black, and yeah, it should look pretty good when it's done, but it's just sitting here drying. We're gonna have to let this cure for quite a while. The wrinkle black paint is a little tricky to get to work, so we're just gonna make sure that we do the best job we can on it. But anyways, I'm doing the intake manifold, like I said, and I'm doing the valve cover. I had another spare valve cover at my house, and we're just, did the same thing. We paint stripped it and then took it to the car wash, had all the excess paint blown off of it, and then we put filler primer on and then the wrinkle black VHT paint. So that stuff should be coming together here pretty soon. We also started doing some of the radiator mounts because the car, now that it's going to be turbocharged, we're going to have to run a half-size radiator. So this is another part that I was telling you guys about in one of the last videos. This guy has different mounting locations than the full-size radiator that this car came with. So what I ended up doing is I just lobbed off the brackets on the core support here. So I cut those off on both sides and re-welded them in the proper position where like a normal Civic radiator would fit. So I got those welded on. I'm just going to spray a little bit of paint over this and over the welds in order to make sure that they don't rust or anything like that. So yeah, like I said, all I did was lob those off and weld them in a different spot on the core support where the radiator is going to fit now. So that is done. So the radiator is going to fit Minto Pinto. Fucking mint. I know a lot of guys have missed the mint saying, like when I say mint, but it's not my saying, Right. But whatever. Anyways. So now we're going to mount our crooked, janky, free intercooler that we got. So this intercooler is kind of beat and bent, but we're going to run it. It's not kinda, it's definitely bent and tweaked, but it does not leak. And we're gonna use this intercooler on the CRV because it was free. So I'm actually gonna be taking the intercooler and I'm making brackets on the bottom of the core support here that will just kind of come off the bottom of the core support. We may weld them onto the core support or bolt them on. I'm not exactly sure how we're gonna do that yet, but pretty much we're just gonna take some flat stock and come off of the bottom of the core support here and then bolt into the bottom of the intercooler. So that's how we're going to do that. Christian's just got to go over and cut the flat stock to size, and then we'll be ready to rip on mounting the intercooler. What's up, Cole?
What's going on?
For you, it is most important that sales associates be knowledgeable about postal products and services, work efficiently, have a positive attitude, or treat you with courtesy. I feel like treating me with courtesy is important.
Tell them we want a cheaper price.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what you should put.
During this visit, how much would you agree if the sales associate treated you with courtesy? The guy was kind of an asshole. Didn't really say much. Somewhat agree. Had a positive attitude. Once again, didn't really say much. Somewhat agree. Worked efficiently. Strongly agree. He didn't say much.
But he did get his job done.
Very efficient. Was knowledgeable about postal products and services. Didn't even offer any.
You did not.
We're going to somewhat disagree. How long did you wait in line?
Forever.
16 or more minutes.
Did you really put that?
No.
Oh.
The amount of time you waited in line was acceptable. Strongly agree, mostly agree, somewhat agree, and then all the disagrees. It was pretty acceptable.
Yeah.
We'll go mostly agree. Could have been faster.
Alright guys, so it is the next day now. We're going to go work on the CRV some more, but first we have to go get my welding gas filled up. It seems like I go through welding gas like every month, it seems. We've been welding a lot of stuff. My truck, on the other hand, is running like crap. It's running really rich all of a sudden. I pressure washed the engine bay and now it's running rich.
What should this post office do to improve your satisfaction with the service you receive? Bring Tina back! Exclamation point. Sent. Thank you.
right, guys, so we just left the post office. We had to send out a few orders for huntertune.com. If you guys haven't placed any orders on there or are looking for anything on the website, feel free to place an order. It would greatly help out the channel. If you guys need a base map, I got a bunch of chips back in stock, so I can send you a base map for your chipped Honda computer. I'm actually going on a roll now doing base maps lately because I got a whole stock load of chips back in stock. So yeah, if you guys need a base map, let me know. You can just in the order description, just put your build details in the description, like, hey, I have a LS VTEC with 550cc injectors and an eBay turbo kit.
Right.
That's all I need to know.
They just ran that red.
Yeah.
Amtrak just ran a red.
Ran a red light.
Bring Tina back.
So yeah, we just left the post office, and every time we go there, they ask us if we want to fill out the survey.
Yeah.
And we go like every couple days,
yeah,
to the post office, and they ask us every time if we want to fill the survey out. And today, Christian filled the fucking survey out.
Yeah, this is like the third one I've done, and everyone has the same answers on it, except for the first one. I like the one that I put today.
Yeah.
The guys were intimidating.
Yeah. So once we get to the shop, I'm actually going to plug the computer into this thing and try to retune it. I don't know. I've had map sensor issues lately with the truck. So I have a stock one in it currently just to drive it. And I had it tuned up sort of decent. And now it's running like a bag of dicks again. So I got to fix that.
Just to drive it, but it's barely drivable.
It's very,
it's drivable.
It's drivable, but like the converter lock's pretty violent.
Yeah, it's snap your neck.
Yeah, snap your neck converter lock.
Eddie Bauer.
Oh yeah, 1101.
What's on the billboard?
11.0 on the highway, doing 55, watching my gas gauge fall as I drive.
And it was full when you left your house.
So when we get back to the shop, I want to show you guys my new bitchin' wheels and tires that I got on my truck. I finally got new tires.
Yeah, you can hear them.
Yeah, they're kind of loud. Alrighty guys, so we're out here working on the CRV yet again, and I got a lot more stuff done on it. I let the paint dry on my valve cover and my intake manifold, and this stuff came out really nice. The wrinkle finish actually came out a lot better than I anticipated. So that VHT black wrinkle paint works really good, guys. So if you guys want to have wrinkle black finish on anything, I highly suggest it. It's just a spray can, and it worked pretty good. So I'm going to be putting this valve cover on, and I'm just going to sand off the Honda Motor Company lettering right here. I don't know when I'm going to do that. Probably let it dry and cure for a little while yet before I do that. But they are dry to the touch where I could put them on the engine. Same with the intake here. The intake is looking badass. Super cool that I did that. I'm actually kind of happy that I painted these because, I don't know, it just spices up the engine bay a little bit more. So anyways, I have to throw the intake manifold back on the car with the new gasket. But in the meantime, I wanted to get a lot of the oil lines on the turbo kit done, and we got the intercooler mounted. We got those brackets welded onto the core support. So the intercooler is hung. She ain't going nowhere. It's not the prettiest intercooler in the world, but it'll work. I also did get the oil return line and feed lines done. So the return line is going into the pan right in this location here. I kind of sorted this out with 245-degree fittings before I even bought all the turbo kit stuff and all the hoses and fittings because I had this exact oil return line routing planned out before I even did this. So I did get that bung welded into the oil pan here, and it is welded into the pan on the inside, so there's no actual weld on the outside of the pan. And I did test this with water, and it did not seem to leak any water out of it. I filled the pan all the way to the top, let it sit for like 20 minutes, and there was no water coming out of the fitting here. So I did test that. I welded it all the way around on the inside only. I may weld it on the outside where I can get at it later if it does leak. So that's my plan on that guy. But I got the oil pan back onto the car, and this is the return line setup. runs up 45 off of the pan, and then runs around the manifold. These manifolds are a little tricky to run your return line on, so that's why those 245s really come in handy. So there's a 45 way up there on the bottom of the turbo coming off, and it steers it off away from the manifold and away from the flange and all the hot stuff, and it perfectly curves the hose without any stress or kinks in it, in order to get this nice bend in it. Like I said, that's why we got those 245s to work here. So there's the return line. Now if we go to the back of the engine here, up here there is the stock oil pressure sensor right next to the oil filter, and I put a T in line, and I have the top part of the T going up with the oil feed line connected to it, and then I have this back port open to run a oil pressure gauge or the stock oil pressure sending unit. So I'm gonna do that. I got a new oil filter for it as well I gotta throw on, and yeah. So here's those mounts for the radiator. We got those welded in. The radiator is nice and secure without any mount on the top even. It's pretty secure. So I'm gonna lower the car back down on the ground quick and show you the view from the top. Our lift, we have to plug the air hose into it because it leaks a little bit out of this little fitting here for the locks. So I just unplug it every time I, need to leave the car sit for a while. But we gotta go up, get the car off of the locks, and then we hit this button to release the locks, and then push the lever, and the car comes down. Alright guys, so this is the view from the top now. I got the manifold bolted on. I bolted the manifold onto the engine first without the turbo attached, because these manifolds with the VS Racing turbos, you can get at all the bolts very easily to unbolt the turbo if need be. So we did get the turbo and everything bolted on here. The manifold is in with the gasket. The wastegate is still loose because I don't know what I'm going to do with this guy yet, where I want to position it for the dump tube. But nonetheless, the turbo is mounted, and we modified the power steering bracket on this thing to clear the turbo. So I actually had to cut this bolt, the bolt head, in half. So like I took, they're just like normal 14 millimeter bolt heads. This is a 17, but just for reference, I took a die grinder and I cut half of the head off of the bolt to be able to clear the turbo for the power steering here. Normally these manifolds are not power steering compatible, but I cut the bracket, the power steering bracket, I cut it like in half. So like normally it bolts on right here, and it bolts on this bolt over here, and the bracket comes out and obviously would hit the turbo, but I chopped it in half right here and chopped the bolt head to clear the compressor housing here. And then I had to do a little shaving just with like and then I took my little my die grinder bit here with the carbide bit, and I smoothed out and ground out a couple little spots where the compressor was still hitting, and now the compressor housing moves freely, and we can bolt up the power steering pump with the turbo on. So that is awesome. We're going to retain power steering on this setup, and I'm actually going to be running just like a turbo guard or like a screen on the end of the turbo. I'm not actually going to run a filter. My truck that I put 50,000 miles on, I've never even had a filter on it or a screen. Like I said, guys, these VS Racing turbos are super reliable. You could literally run sand through them and they'd still work, I feel. Like I said, they're just very reliable, tough built turbos. So as long as you oil them correctly, I feel like they're great, and you don't suck up a squirrel or something like that. So anyways, without further ado, I'm probably going to get the power steering mounted for good, and then we can mount all this stuff back in its stock location. And then I'm going to get the belts put back on, and we got to get the intake manifold back on and build an exhaust for this thing. So I'm pretty excited. I got a couple bends from Fleet Farm. They're kind of expensive, which sucks. When you're building a custom downpipe, it's kind of expensive, especially when you're buying mandrel 3-inch bends. I think each bend is like fucking 35 bucks. So I spent like $75 on 3 bends right here. There was like 80 bucks, I think, for all 3 of these. But anyways, pretty much what we're going to be doing is I'm going to take this long sweeping 90, and I'm going to come off of the turbo just like this, and then it's going to go down, and I'm going to have another 90 that shoots it, kind of under the pan like this, and then we can just run a straight piece back to our catback exhaust. This build, guys, honestly is turning out so good. I'm very happy with how everything is going so far and how legit this thing is turning out. It's probably going to be one of the nicest Honda builds I've ever done on the channel here. It's going to put this thing to shame. This thing's still going to look nice when I'm done with it, but I'm going to have to take my time on this. This thing sucks too because I forgot about the back door intercooler. I have to run the radiator off to the right towards the driver's side more, and I can't with this manifold the way it is, because if I try to move it farther right any farther, it hits the wastegate. So I can't run the frickin' intercooler pipe on this side of the radiator. So I'm probably, on this car, I'm probably honestly gonna have to cut the manifold and re-weld the wastegate flange up here so the wastegate gets positioned differently instead of the way this is. This is an old school, like their first run of the Rev 9 manifolds. I've been running this one for a long time, but I never had the back door intercooler. So this one, like I said, I'm probably gonna have to cut this and reposition the wastegate flange in order to get this set up to work with the back door intercooler. But like I said, this manifold's like 2 years old, and it's the same Rev 9 manifold that I'm running on this one, and it's been holding up really good, guys. Obviously, little difference with turbo kits and stuff like that is depending on what turbo you have and what intercooler and what piping and all that kind of stuff, you're going to have to depend on how you're going to set up your stuff, like the oil lines. That's why I got those 45s. And another thing I want to show you guys quick is the intercooler piping setup I have to deal with on this, because it's not a backdoor setup. The backdoor intercoolers work really good with top mounts because you can just position the compressor housing literally straight this way and it'll just couple right onto the intercooler. But when you're running a front mount, front mount intercooler with the inlet and outlets coming out of the sides, it's a lot trickier because, well, I'll show you our dilemma here. All right, guys, so now that I can show you this thing back up on the lift, this coupler, I have to run the coupler and compressor housing right here so it doesn't actually hit the manifold in any way. If I run the compressor housing like this, I have to get like almost like a 45 degree, this is like a pretty small pipe, like 1.5 inches or 1 3/4 size pipe. I have to run like a straight 45 degree bend pipe off of this, which will bring me right here straight. So then I can run a 90 off of that and come over this way, which ideally I would just like to position it straight down, have a 90 come off, and then a U right here to go into the intercooler. But can't do that because if the compressor housing is straight like this, you can see that the coupler is actually touching the manifold. So I'm definitely going to have to get creative with the intercooler piping on this side in order to make it work and not, get burnt. So that's another job that I'll probably tackle tomorrow or something, because I don't know. I might have some of that small intercooler piping at home, but I don't know if I do. I might have to order some stuff to get this finalized, because I'm going to have to adapt it out to this 2.5 inch intercooler out here too. So I don't know what couplers I all have in order to make this work. The cold side of the intercooler, so like the side that goes to the intake manifold to the throttle body, this side is pretty much plug and play with what I have laying around. I have this pipe with the blow-off valve on it. This is an HKS blow-off valve. And yeah, this should work out pretty well on that side, but the hot side, a little bit trickier. But we'll figure it out nonetheless. But for the meantime, I think I am going to tidy up the oil line on the top and show you how I'm running the oil feed. I showed you where I connected it into the block, but I also want to show you where I'm running it for a clean install. All right, so obviously the feed line comes off of the back of the engine here, and I'm running it underneath the intake manifold, or when the intake's here, it's going to be running over, and I'm running it in between the timing belt on the this side of the cam gears. So it's actually just going to be positioned way down in here, and I'm going to put some rubber insulated clamps around the feed line and use a couple M6x10 bolts to bolt it to the cylinder head in these locations here. If I can get the camera down here. Hopefully you can see, guys. So this location right here, where my finger is, I'm going to bolt it with one of those rubber insulated clamps, and then also there's another spot right over on the other side under the exhaust cam. So there's one directly under the intake and exhaust cams that normally hold the inner timing belt cover. So I took that inner timing belt cover off of there, and now I have those bolt holes in order to run those like rubber insulated clamps. I'll show you what ones I'm talking about here. They're just gonna go over the feed line. These guys here. So I'll just run 2 of these little clamps, and that will tidy up our feed line. So once that's done, I'm gonna start building downpipe, and I'll pick up then. All right, guys, like I said, this build is just really making me happy. Everything is going together awesome, and I'm just super excited to get this thing done. But I'm taking my time on a lot of stuff, just making sure everything's gonna be perfect. I don't know why I'm being really picky with this build, but it's super appreciative of me. Or it's just, I'm very appreciative of this car in general, because this car was actually donated to the channel. So I want to just do a really good job on it and make sure that everything is going to be perfect, so we can just have fun and enjoy it for the rest of the winter. So yeah, anyways, I am in the process of building a downpipe for this thing, and I have a 90 coming off the turbo like I showed you guys. And then it comes down to another mandrel bent 90, which is positioned in such a way that it clears the transmission and it clears the oil pan and the sleeve cylinder, obviously, right up here. And then I have just another 3-inch piece of straight pipe right here that I cut at a 45, or like a 30-degree angle. It wasn't quite a 45. I honestly just eyeballed it and it fucking worked. So I did that and then ran a piece of straight section right here, and then the other end of it was another 45 piece of pipe, and that connected right here, which straightened the exhaust out to clear the transfer case. So this is all 3-inch pipe, 0 restriction on this downpipe. I'm super excited about it. So now we're coming straight back, and the downpipe is all tacked together, guys, and it comes right where the factory exhaust was. So this is the factory exhaust, or not factory, but it's the cap back. I just put back on the car to kind of see where everything was going to line up, and honestly, it's right there, guys. So we just have to connect this into this, and we could run this existing exhaust, but like I said, I actually have to modify this exhaust to clear the viscous coupler on the drive shaft. So currently, I honestly would not run the muffler. I would like to ideally just run wide open straight pipe all the way back, because turbo cars really kind of suffer with a muffler, and it's not going to be that loud. It's way louder right now than it will be with the turbo straight piped, I promise, because this thing is just super raspy, loud, sounds like crap. But let me turn the damn radio off. But the good thing about this exhaust is it has the axle back portion with the hangers on it. I'll just have to cut the muffler like right around this spot, and then just run a piece of straight to delete the muffler, and I cut the hangers off the muffler as well to just weld onto my straight pipe. So that's the plan for that. And then I have to modify the exhaust somehow where this little dip is right here. It needs to come back. It needs to do that little dip closer to the front of the car or farther back. So I have to maneuver this little piece right here somehow into the exhaust. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge to try to figure out, to get the exhaust to, not hit the viscous coupler. Because like I said, currently the viscous is literally right where this little dip is in the exhaust, and it does not clear. So I could just probably extend it and run this piece of pipe lower, but I hate doing that with exhaust. I hate having exhaust sag and hang low. I would rather have as much ground clearance as possible. I almost want the viscous to be the lowest part of the drive line underneath the car. So exhaust, I'll have to figure out at some point. I think honestly, it would be nice to just run my own damn exhaust, like just run this kind of pipe all the way back and then weld this hanger onto this kind of pipe. I'll just go get more of it tomorrow from the farm store, and just keep running that 3-inch piece of pipe back until we get to about this bend here, and then just try to figure something out. I just don't want to buy more bends. And this catback is only a 2.5-inch OD. Its outer diameter is 2.45, which is kind of small. I would prefer to stay true 3-inch all the way back, but it's going to be tough without a pipe bender and not spending a lot of money on little bends and stuff. But I'm going to do the best I can, guys, and hopefully figure this thing out. But I still have to weld the O2 sensor bung into the exhaust. We still have to run gauges. We still have to, put a gauge pillar in it and injectors, bolt the intake on. I haven't done any of that stuff yet, but I did get a hell of a lot done, I feel, today. The return line and all that is done on the oil pan. I'm going to lower the car back down one more time and kind of show you the view from the top. Hang on, I'm going to put the valve cover on for like full effect. I'm going to have to do a spark plug zip tie roadkill style on the spark plugs, or the spark plug wires here, to make that all look nice and pretty. I don't normally do any pretty builds, guys. Like, I don't ever try and do, like, pay attention to the little things like painting valve covers and intake manifolds and then making my goddamn turbo kit look like this. But it's kind of fun, and I'm actually really freaking proud of this. I'm super stoked, honestly, guys. I got the power steering mounted up. I got the belts tight. I got the alternator belt tight and the power steering belt. I removed the little AC pulley, wherever that guy is. This thing right here. So this guy just bolts on to like the tensioner bracket thing. I just removed that so it was out of the way and would not risk running into the belt. So I did that, and then, I got all the power steering stuff mounted. I threw the intake manifold on here just to kind of see how it's going to look, and damn, guys, this thing is sick. I'm so excited. The downpipe is all tacked together like you can see here, and it runs down. I got to throw my lower radiator hose on, wherever that guy is. I got such a mess going on, guys. It's crazy. I've just been wrenching and like paying all the attention to the CRV, and like I can't find tools. I'm just freaking running around like crazy trying to figure out where all this stuff goes. But man, it's been a while since I built one of my own cars. Like, I haven't built a car of my own in quite a while, guys. The Mustang has been main priority for like the whole summer, and I've just been doing customer stuff nonstop. But I'm just taking my time on doing the new Honda builds, and I'm really hoping you guys like it. Like I said, I am super happy with how this thing's turning out. I can't even imagine how I'm gonna build this thing. If I got this kind of attitude lately here at the shop, just having all the luxuries that I have that I'm so thankful for, like the hoist, a heater, and all these tools, it's so humbling, guys. I'm so thankful for every one of you that has helped me out along the way, because I've come from nothing. I've come from fucking nothing. No tools. There we go. Now I got the lower hose on. I just got to put the clamps on. And yeah. This little thing clamps onto here. It's like so much, it's so crazy how like I've just been paying attention to little details on this car. Like, I don't know, like putting all the brackets back where they're supposed to go, and like this little hose, the radiator hose clamp that comes off the clutch line. Like, normally a lot of this stuff, like, I would just throw in the fucking garbage. But for some reason, I'm just like making sure I do this 100%. I don't know why on this one I'm just so motivated to do that, but I am, and it's kind of rewarding, to be 100% honest with you. We are not running the water lines on the turbo. I never run the water lines on these turbos that I sell, and I never have any issues. The water lines just kind of add complication to the whole setup, and it's just not needed, in my opinion, unless you're like a super hard road racer and the turbo is constantly flying with no brake. I don't know, but I feel like they cool down just fine as long as you're like just cruising street driving. That's like the time when they can cool off. I'm babbling like a motherfucker, but this car is so awesome, guys. I'm so excited. I'm stoked. Like, I honestly haven't been this stoked for a build in a hot minute. A hot fucking minute. I have not been this stoked. We're gonna have to run the vacuum lines accordingly. Man, just look at it. Would you just look at it? Alright, guys, thanks for watching. I'm gonna pick up tomorrow. I'm gonna get out here and try to maybe figure something out on the exhaust and get the intake manifold bolted down for good get my fuel rail on. I actually have an AEM fuel rail that I got off of a car that I sold a long time ago. It had an AEM fuel rail on it, and I just threw a stock one on it to sell it, and then kept the AEM one for a future build. And I honestly was going to use it on this car, but this car already had like a silver stock looking fuel rail that I converted over to you know, just work, and I like the silver one on this car, the stock fuel rail with the silver manifold. I like that, but since this manifold is black, I'm gonna put the black AEM fuel rail on it. The only thing is the there we go, just like that. I might have to clean that off a little bit, but the only thing with this setup is the fuel pressure regulator from the CRV is almost like a Y8 fuel pressure regulator or something similar to that. It's got like offset bolt holes. I'll show you here. So I'll have to run a different fuel pressure regulator. I think I have one laying around somewhere. I'd have to find it, but I'm probably going to put a fuel pressure gauge on this car as well, because I don't know if the fuel pressure regulator I have will be good or not. So I'll have to just verify with a gauge to make sure of that. So yeah, I got a lot of stuff done today, guys. I'm so happy. And the welder, I got my gas filled on the welder today, so that was neat. I have to give this thing a fucking bath. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for the upcoming videos on the CRV. And I can't wait to get this thing ripping. I hope you guys are excited as excited as I am. And yeah, have a great night and a better tomorrow, guys. We will see you later.